So, welcome back, everybody, to yet another podcast with Bram LaGrue, which is the Energize with Bram podcast. And today, you guys are in for a treat. Joining me today is Andrew Downs from the Sage Group. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, Bram. How are you?
Great, good to see you. It looks like you're about to hit some goals.
Mate, I'm in a little conference room here, and we've got the image of the first showdown behind me. So yeah, great memories there too.
Well, and it's a great picture to kind of go back to the roots of where your personal business venture started. You just said before we went live that it was about 30 years ago. So, where did it start and where is it today, Andrew?
Well, I started the business July '94, so we are talking about a 30-year journey. Um, Preceding that, though, if we can go back to maybe the start, I certainly wasn't a good scholar at school. I got to year 11, 16 years of age, and said I better get a job. And for some reason, focused on electrical apprenticeship and went and applied everywhere. Electrical apprenticeships, maybe 30 applications. But I was lucky enough to get the job with Uniroyal on South Road.
Mhm.
I think it might have had something to do with the fact they didn't do an aptitude test. So that was in my favour. Uh, got the job, 16 years of age, and that was it. Put straight into the workforce. Now, the great thing about an electrical apprenticeship, as people should know today as well, is
Mhm.
that you can have zero knowledge. As long as you can present yourself to work, it's up to you to learn and to learn on the job. So I did that from the day I started my career, 16th of January 1980. I've loved every bit of this industry. I loved the electrical part. I eventually got into the automation technical part, and I spent 14 years at Bridgestones. And that's where the story starts, that I decided to leave and start a business in my backyard shed.
And why, Andrew? Because you could have easily, let's say, be cushy and just be looked after and have the perks of working for someone. Why did you leave that?
Well, it was very hard for my father to understand that too, because big company, multinational, but there's something about myself and bureaucracy that doesn't agree. And I could see that when you work for a boss is fine. And I had no Bridgestones are an amazing company, still are. But I had this knowledge of automation and I had this opportunity to work for myself. And I think there's that feeling of independence. And, for your listeners too, you just don't suddenly say, I'm going to leave my job. This
Mm.
has been in the back of my mind for, say, 2 or 3 years in building a shed in my backyard, doing a bit of work outside of my main job, building a bit of confidence, creating some networks. So doing a bit of moonlighting as well. So when I did make the decision, or the decision was made for me as well, because my boss said, well, he was a good bloke. He just said, you need to make a commitment, either a career with me or go to your own business. And I took about 30 seconds to make the decision. I said, that's it. I'm out of here. We left friends and Sage was born.
Congratulations, done with the job, off to the personal venture. Sage obviously today is a serious business, an international business actually, with how many staff now these days?
Look, I believe the number's about 750 staff.
Wow.
Last year's revenues were certainly north of 200 million. I think this year's budget might be 230 million Australian dollars. So,
Yep,
yes, it's had a fair degree of growth over those 30 years.
absolutely. And in your wildest dreams back then, when you said goodbye to Bridgestone and started your own in the shed, were you even thinking that it could turn into a business like it is today?
Absolutely not. Wouldn't even have an inkling that of what could have been. It really was just a job, working from home, making wages
Yep.
and independence.
Yep.
That was it. That's as simple as it got.
Yeah. And of course, as soon as it happened, everything was rosy, nothing went wrong. It has just been an easy ride since then, hasn't it, Andrew?
Oh well, Bram, over 30 years, I think I could tell you there's a few ups and downs in this story, but phenomenally, yeah, that first year in the shed, I thought, well, I'll be able to do some work, work my own hours.
Mhm.
One of the ex-apprentices come and join me. His name
Mhm.
was Jason Taylor. He actually started in the shed before I left. He was doing bits and pieces there. But I always say there's three things in business, and you can only ever deliver two normally as a profitable company, and that is price, quality, or timing. But whether it's stupid or not, I delivered all three. So I was the cheapest. I believe I had the best quality, and always did a job on time, no matter if you have to work 7 days a week and, 15 hours a day. So that success led me to be so busy, I had to employ a second person from Bridgestones. His name was Sam. And then I think we ended up with 7 people in the shed. So you can see, if you get the fundamentals of your business right, from a technical point of view, it takes off. Customers vote with the order book, I think, and I just couldn't keep up. I was swamped with work.
Amazing. I love it. So how long did it take you to get to the 6 other people in the business?
Oh, it was all in the first year, 7 people. There's a story there too, because while you're independent, you're in your back shed enjoying, I could, 10-meter walk and I was in bed and back to the shed. Great for lifestyle, but someone in the local community dobbed me into the council saying this guy's making too much noise. There's cars leaving in the middle of the night. They're getting there early in the morning. So I just ignored everything the council had put to me in the post. I just threw in the bin stupidly, right? I'm not endorsing that. It's very smart. To the point where I was asked to attend court. I was going to be sued and shut down, and then I had to find myself a lawyer, and that starts another journey, right? Because when you start a business as a technician, you have no fundamental knowledge of things like legal, accounting, quality control, all the processes that a good business needs, and we've certainly got today. I had none, and had to get the first lawyer. So then I was the first year of business, and I'm defending a bloody lawsuit from the local council. So, gosh, it's an interesting story in itself.
Yeah, so straight away you got thrown in the deep end and had to kind of learn how to swim in that sort of legal framework and cough up the fees, which, are not the cheapest.
Well, I had to go to court, and of course I was in the wrong. I had to admit that in front of the commissioner in those days, and he said, "Look," and much to the council were upset. Don't worry, they wanted to shut me down immediately, but my lawyer was very clever in saying, "Listen, why don't you give this bloke a break? He employs 6 other people. Give them an opportunity to get on their feet somewhere else." So we had a 1 month, I think 1 month to find a place and 1 month to shift out. And the council thought that was horrendous. They were so upset. But we took that opportunity, and that's when I shifted to Melrose Park. But here's where the story changes, Prem. 1 year in, or maybe even call it 18 months into business, I'm now faced with this massive rent bill, which I didn't have before. So now I'm thrown into the fact that I've got overheads.
Yeah.
So I've gone from this ignorance is bliss backyard situation to, hang on, this is now, I've got a serious overhead now I've got to feed.
Which is where the price thing comes in again.
And with that, you've got to employ more people and got to get more work, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Where would you say, obviously, then there's over a 30-year trajectory, you had this really huge growth in both staff as well as revenue and the likes. What have been some major challenges along the way?
Yeah, look, as you know, with all challenges there's opportunities. I would think diversifying was the first challenge, but also the opportunity, right? So I was heavily based in the automotive industry. My knowledge was Bridgestone tires, Bridgestone rubber. I knew that industry sector. So it wasn't long in business. In 1998, we took on a job that was totally outside of our field of expertise, and that was the Adelaide tunnels, the Hyson tunnels.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
We'd never done any work, and we just put together a very compelling bid against strong competition. And I think this is where you get into your self-belief, right? So, look, how hard can it be? We technically knew what we were doing, and automotive industry was tough anyway. And why couldn't we apply our skills to that? So I'll throw that in as one of the great moments of the company. It was $1 million contract for a very small company. We beat our biggest competitor, which I later sent broke. But anyway, that's another story. I think the negatives, though, was just not knowing what it took to run a business. Once again, the technical side's easy. You go and read the great book by Michael Gerber, The E-Myth. Yep. It's all about entrepreneurs don't go into business to make money or be great business people. They go into business because they know what they're doing. It's a technical thing. Yeah. And then you just start working out, my first order numbers were people's names or bloody anything, it was a nightmare. You got to get a bookkeeper. Then you got to get an accountant. I had to get a lawyer because I was already in trouble with the council. So then you need quality systems. Then you need processes. So I've learned the hard way
Yeah.
that if you don't grow the processes and systems necessary to run a business, it's a pretty sure way to either go broke or not do very well.
Yeah.
And not succeed and grow.
Can perfectly relate. Yeah, as a business owner starting up, you got to suddenly wear a lot of hats that you're not necessarily ready for, and then you're going to kind of learn along the way. Yeah. One question that nobody has ever asked you, but that you've always wanted to answer, Andrew, what would it be?
One question. Oh, now you put me on the spot. Come back to that.
Okay, sounds good. You've obviously then built this group of people around you in the early days, and many of whom still are there with you today.
Yes. Yep. Now,
Tell us a bit more
amazing
about
fact.
this.
Look, this is an amazing statistic. I don't think I mentioned it before. Out of the 7 people in the back shed, 4 are still with me 30 years on today. That's not bad. All in senior roles as well. They've all grown with myself. They've all got senior roles at Sage, and we only celebrated a 30-year dinner the other night. Outside of the 30, there's a lot getting close to that number, but we now celebrate 58 people that have had 20 years service at Sage. So that tells you a lot about, I think, our culture. I think about how we like to promote from within, how we work with people.
Yep.
And it's always been a phenomenal journey in how do you get people to work as a team? Because honestly, when you're starting a back shed, or even a startup, it's not a polished brand. People are joining you because of something. There's a secret sauce there. There's something. And ours was about winning, and people just aligned their personal brand with winning and doing the best jobs we could do. And it's infectious. People love to win, I believe, anyway. A bit like the football behind me. People play for a premiership. We always used to play to win in our jobs. So the other little comment about staff too is that people find their feet. Not everyone is good at everything. So you always employ around your own weaknesses or weaknesses of the team. So, eventually you'll find out you need a good estimator. You'll find an estimator. You need a better engineer. You'll get an engineer. So I've always had the philosophy to employ people better than yourself. And my senior team would think that as well. So, and you grow. There's no limit really.
That's it. So if there's no limits, where do you see it going?
Well, it's like, I think you've got self-imposed limits sometimes. Sometimes it's it could be capital, it could be your banking facility. Across our whole journey, it's always been access to capital, I think. I mean, today we're a profitable business, so we don't have any issues. But over that journey, you're always looking to see, as you grow, growth costs money. And I don't know any other, Bram, I'll get you to teach me later if you know of another, because we're not a software company that suddenly starts and then all of a sudden has got $1 billion market cap because we've got an app that has gone global. I mean, we're a services company, and I haven't explained it very well. We do projects, we do service work. We're a traditional control systems, automation, digitization company. So for us to grow, we need people. And with people, you need a premises. And with a premises, you need marketing. So it's been that consistent journey, or constant journey, I should say, of investment, then growth, then reinvestment, then growth. And that's how we've done it over that time.
Yeah.
And sometimes you go backwards. Sometimes when you grow, you'll actually make less money as a bigger company.
Because there's always this beautiful ratio when you got certain amount of projects on the go with certain revenue, and then you put more people on, it kind of takes your profit down again until a certain point.
And once again, I think there's this concept that people say they get into business and that your profit grows the same rate as your revenue. And I've never known that. It's always we go backwards to go forwards because you're reinvesting in a new office, or you're opening up a new facility, or even investing to open up our office in India, which has been an amazing experience. It takes capital, it takes patience to get things started. So, I mean, that's the biggest limitation for a privately owned company, I think, and probably now more than anything, would be banks and their willingness to lend money.
How much appetite have you experienced over those years for banks to actually back up a company like yours?
Look, in the early days, mate, I think the banking industry was a bit different. A lot of it was relationship based. Then you went through different phases of banks. I mean, before the GFC, for those listeners that understand, in 2008, we had the global financial crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Banks were shoving money down your throat, literally, ourselves included. Then you have a banking collapse, what happened in 2008, and they suddenly want their money back. And that causes, for us included, causes massive issues.
Mm.
We had nearly $5 million of debt because they just wanted to give us the money. Then there was the massive change. We don't want to give you the money. In actual fact, we want it back.
Yeah.
So these are big challenges where you've got to restructure your business, change the way you go about things, probably for the better. I mean, today we've got a very strong relationship with our bank, but these are the moments that can totally destroy you, trip you up.
Yeah.
I think everyone knows the term cash is king. And the day you run out of cash is the day you don't have a business.
Yeah. Obviously, you guys have also invested in purchasing other businesses like Newcon.
We've done about 12 mergers and acquisitions in our time, all relatively small. A lot of it was to grow our business into geographical areas.
Mm-hmm.
Darwin was an acquisition. WA was an acquisition. Geelong was an acquisition. Newcon was an opportunity to get into a technical part about it was current part of our business, but we just weren't as proficient as what the Newcon guys were, so we merged that. And then we've got a training business. We've got a recruitment business called Embedded Expertise.
Mm-hmm.
We bought a traffic business. So yes, there's been a long history.
Yeah,
I bought a switchboard business, so that has helped us grow as well. And you need cash to do that as well.
So where do you see it going, let's say, in the next 20 years, Andrew?
Well, 20 years, I would think. I'm 62. Sorry, I'm 61. I don't want to add another year to my age. I'm 61 at the moment.
Uh-huh.
So I think I'll be well and truly out by the time I'm 81. The business is in excellent hands. I don't run day to day. My current role is executive director and founder of Sage.
Mm-hmm.
Adrian Fay is the managing director and CEO. Bruce Carter is our chair.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a very competent board of which I'm a member of. So I can probably stay here as long as I want to and have the freedom to do other things I want to do as well.
Yeah, beautiful. Obviously, you've been traveling to Harvard and made other sorts of travel to meet meet with venture capitalists and the likes. Can you expand a little bit more what your current duties as such look like?
Well, I've been on a number of external boards, which I love, and I learn a lot from that. Right, so you're right. I was lucky enough to go to Harvard to do the owner president management course, of which Adrian then went and did, and Dion, our CFO. So learning about business is the key here. Understanding businesses, understanding what drives them, the multiples, how you value a business. So that journey in other companies outside of Sage, there's two I can talk to. I can't disclose the numbers on one. One was Your DC, which is a data center. I was on that board,
Mm-hmm.
a small shareholder as well,
Mm-hmm.
and we sold that to private equity. So you go through that process. The latest one is more public. It was reported in the Fin Review. CAMS, a local Adelaide company, I was on the board of, and we sold to a strategic investor in the US through a full process, and that was well in excess of 150 million. So it's great when you see businesses divest with excellent returns for shareholders, but you also learn what the key drivers are. What makes a company look attractive to a purchaser, and I think that's what you've got to look at. So, if Sage was to be for sale, what do we need to look like for someone to buy us, or what would they value?
Yep.
I think all these numbers in my head go recurring revenue, profitability, strong balance sheet, excellent logos, stickiness with customers, retention of people, geographic, I could go on. But they're all the little things that you learn from because business is business. At the end of the day, I don't think there's too much different. So I'm on the board of a training company now. I'm on the board of a company that is a small manufacturer of modular wiring solutions,
Yep.
A small equipment provider, a property group. So, yeah, this is the things that I love. about growing a business, is working with smaller companies and to help them, well, try to use as much of my experience and knowledge as I can to make them successful.
That's great. So that's in a way also a way of giving back, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely, and a bit of mentoring as well. Like there's a lot of young people have come up to me and said, "Look, cup of coffee, or can we catch up once a month?" And I can be honest, I've never knocked anyone back, and I always I like to give back. I think that's a, and by the way, I can learn more than they can teach me in a lot of ways as well.
Yep. Yep. And I'm going to echo that as well, Andrew, because recently I reached out to you to introduce someone to you who actually wanted to, meet you and have a chat to you and see if there would be potential for mentoring and the likes. And you generously, easily said yes to it. So
yep. And I've caught up with them since, through SA Leaders. It was good. Yeah.
Great to hear. Great to hear. Well, look, you're definitely one of those people that, yes, loves to win, but also is there to, meet other people and share. And I think that's a very generous thing to have, which is probably also contributing to how far you've come.
Well, Bram, I would have to say, if we talk about what I think is success, of course, it's got to be great people, right? Got to work as a team. You've got to have great people. It's probably cliched, it's overstated, but it is in a service company, it's all about people. And that's how people react or interact with one another in their day-to-day business. Also, how they treat their customers and how we treat our staff, with the right levels of recognition and reward. People want that. But the one I reckon is underdone by a lot of businesses is the ability to trust external companies in the form of collaboration, or in the form of partnering, or in the form of networks. I know this is one of your strengths, right, as well. I've been a member of tech for 23 years. It's a massive investment, right? One day a month, get a mentor. But there's so many people I've met through that process. And then I work with an organisation called SA Leaders. I meet lots of people. I've worked with you. We joined an organisation in the US called the Control System Integrators Association, which now I've got probably 100 American friends who all run automation companies. And you just learn so much from other people, all right? So why would we think we know everything? We don't. And now we would rate, well, there's a thing out in the US called the Global System Integrator Giants. We're a system integrator. Yep. We're now in the top 10 in the world with what we do in our sector.
Gosh.
So, as a Control Engineering magazine, they came up with the SA Giants, and we're there, I think, about number 10. So that's pretty good coming from Adelaide 30 years ago.
Little Adelaide, yeah?
But the only reason I say that is because you put yourself out there to know where you stand, to benchmark, to see what success looks like, what other businesses have done, right?
Yeah.
So massive for us. And I meet so many business owners. I meet so many business people. For some reason, they're so insular, and they think, why would I get someone to help me? Why would I go to a partner? Why would I tell them what I do? And I just keep saying, because they can help you grow. They can teach you what you don't know, and they can help you grow.
So I'm hearing you say there, basically, a growth mindset is definitely really important.
Well, growth mindset, but also through collaboration, through partnering, through expanding your own team. Yeah. It's just all the ingredients for growth, I think.
Yeah, great. I remember the first day when we met. That happened actually on the back of a call that we made. So we never met before, but suddenly here we are sitting in your Melrose Park offices, by the way.
Right, yeah.
That was about 2016 or 17, I believe. I remember you saying, we're all in sales. Can you expand a little bit more on that?
Oh, well, mate, exactly. Everyone's a salesman, and I hate sales. Personally, I hate it. If I'd be the world's worst salesman, but that's what you do every day in your job. It's how you present, talk to customers, sell. Selling is not limited to, a transaction with a customer either. It's selling the organisation to prospective employees or vendors or partners. So, yeah, we're all a sales. Well, that's how I did some work with you. That's right. And I'll always remember that other great book. It was A Family Village Tribe, I think, the flights, right? And I was so passionate about how we could drive sales even further in our company. And, I know we did a lot of work with you in our service business, which really benefited a lot from that process.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, so that's definitely now a few years back as well. Since then, you guys have, I think, grown from back in the days it was about 70 mil, according to the top 100. You guys are at 216 million right now, or at
That's right.
least last time when they checked. I got an inkly feeling that that you guys aren't going to be staying on level or on the 43rd level. I think you guys are going to be climbing up again from here.
Yeah, well, up or down. I think this down gets bigger. But anyway, you're right. You're right. And I think we have to focus on the on international. I mean, it's a big plug for India. We made a massive investment in India with the right people, and that now is doing really well. We've got a great manager there who was trained by us. His name's Rajesh. Up over 100 people. We've now got US-based customers. We're doing work for the Indian market, which we never thought we'd do. We thought, well, how would we be successful in India with a high cost base?
Yeah.
But the thing is, never underestimate. People are looking for quality. But back to day one, they're looking for quality. Cheapest price is not always best. Yeah. So we've now picked up PepsiCo as a major customer right through India, Bangladesh, and soon to go to Saudi, because they're chasing quality, right? And there's other examples of local Indian companies. So that's the potential. And if you think Australia is about 1.5% of world GDP or whatever, India is like growing like you wouldn't believe.
Is there any, because you mentioned the US, is there any desire to open up shop there?
We nearly did. That was pre-COVID. We had a term sheet in with a company. COVID, we missed that opportunity, and in a way, it was the uncertainty of what would happen that probably played out for us. I wouldn't say no, but at the moment, we're focusing on India. I mean, when you move into a new country, it's another big. Back to our point before, you've got to have deep pockets. You have to understand the market. So I wouldn't say no, but I think it's probably smarter for us to continue to grow in India. We're already there, we're established, and there's a lot more work to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a massive market, right? So there's definitely other businesses that will value the reliability and the win rate that you guys have to help them win.
And look, I'd say, there could be an opportunity to merge, for example, with a US-based company. That would probably make a bit more sense, particularly someone with size. But that's certainly not on our horizon or radar at the moment. So
beautiful. Well, back to the original question. What question would you always have loved someone to ask you so that you could answer it, but nobody has ever asked you?
Little bit easy. People think you go into business to make money. Yep. And of course, that's the outcome. But there was people would probably assume that I've got a lot of money or made a lot of money. I'll guarantee you one thing. People haven't asked me how much money I've got. I'm happy to tell them not much. And you know why? Because my personal wealth is tied up in sage. And once again, there's this weird phenomenon. People just believe that because you're in business, you make a shitload of money. And it's true if you reinvest the money into your business. But I don't know if you can have both, right? So the answer that a lot of people have not answered me is, I bet you've made a fortune out of sage. No, I haven't. But the company's gone from one person in a shed to 750 people, and it's going strong. So that is probably one of them. And there's another part to that is I never went into business to make money. It was always to do a great job, to build it. And I think it's the Rockefeller Habits guy, what's his name? Vern Harnish has that book, Scaling Up.
Yep.
It's about getting the right people on the bus, adopting a good strategy, executing well. And, this is what's happening to us today. The cash becomes a byproduct. And I see too many businesses focus on cash first. Do those other three things and the money will drop out. Yeah. Just go into business and, take the Tim Tams out the boardroom and cutting people's salary and really being quite tight with money isn't as powerful as just doing a great job, building a great brand. So I'm sorry, a bit long-winded around that, but yeah, I think that's the thing that no one's ever asked me, that it's not about money.
Great. I love that. Thank you for sharing. And I kind of sense that there's a lot of satisfaction that comes out of the things that actually are there. Could you expand a little bit more on what gives you the biggest joy now looking back on the 30 years?
People. I mean, I do have executive shareholders. So in the early days, I bought, anyone that's worked incredibly hard for the company and is valued. Everyone's valued, but there's been opportunities to get some shares out to people. I still own 57%, but our CEO's got shares. Some of our executive team have got shares. Each of that gives me joy to think that they are now part of something, and it's not just me. That they're generating wealth as well. That is a legacy. If I drop dead tomorrow, the legacy would be that the company's in good hands.
Yeah,
I'll take it forward, and that's what really makes me feel very accomplished and happy. Is that I have transformed a lot of people's lives in terms of ownership, even promotion from within. We're a bunch of electricians, we're a bunch of tradesmen, which is phenomenal. I use that word phenomenal a bit, but it is. It's not the norm to see people at our level of education really drive a big company, and that's because of the passion and everything else.
and I think that's the point that you started off with, saying, hey, it's not about being the smartest or having the highest credentials. It's really about having other things work for you, and you definitely put that to work for you. Yeah,
all the old-fashioned things: customer service, being the best, good quality. Everything else will turn out if you just stick to your, just work hard on delivering a great product, and you'll be surprised how lucky you are with success.
Curious now, knowing that you advise quite a few people on the board elsewhere outside of Sage companies, what's the one thing that you really think that those other founders and owners of businesses really need to kind of get their head around from your perspective? What is the one thing?
I'd go back to that question that people don't ask. It's not about money and P&L from day one. It's about strategy. Yep. Right people, good strategy. Let's not be stupid. You can't just go out and just work hard. That's not right. Be strategic in the markets you want to be. Execute well. If you do those three things, you will then deliver the profit. And I think my advice to a lot of people is get your market right. If your strategy is not right, you could be the hardest worker ever, and you may not be successful.
Yep.
Some people have got great strategies. They put them up on their wall. They put these strategy on a page. They've got all these great, but they don't execute well. So good people, good strategy, execute well, then worry about the money. And in the meantime, you've got to stay in business. I get that. Cash is king.
Yep, absolutely. Where along the way would you say that you made probably your biggest blunder, but actually also taught you a great, valuable lesson?
Oh, look, definitely that one I referred back to. It was the life and death moment, 2008.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, I don't take full responsibility for it because it was a global situation, but that can happen to any business. Mm-hmm. And money dried up. So, where money was abundant and plentiful, it dried up. We had to restructure, but that's made us a better business.
Yeah.
So our near-death experience helped us restructure, become more efficient, got our balance sheet in order, reduced our debt profile.
Yep.
And then, look, the other one, which happened in 2014, which came out of the blue, was, the Australian government decided not to support the car industry. I mean, that was a massive hit, right? We had nearly 36 people at Holden's who all basically stood down the day they made that decision, said, well, we're not going to work on the next model now. The federal government have pulled the pin. That's a lot of people you can't absorb that many people back in a business. So we had to make some redundancies. We had to do some tough things. But now the business is growing, and we went backwards. Our revenues went down in 2014 because we lost the automotive industry. Post that, you dust yourself off. You work on the other sectors that are going to grow. Things like infrastructure, water, defence, mining, and off you go again. So look, sometimes, if someone said to me when I started business there'd be no automotive industry, I wouldn't have believed them, and it probably would have stopped me from doing it.
Yep. Who is the person that along the way would have challenged you in your views, potentially said no to you where you wanted to say yes, or vice versa? And in hindsight, you were really grateful to him for it.
Well, it started back at my old job in Bridgestones. I had a mentor, Brian Coles, and he was just a fantastic bloke. Hard as, what do they say? Hard but fair. Incredibly hard on me.
Tough love.
But you wouldn't believe. This is the old days, mate. This is in the word. I don't endorse it in any way, but it's so close to bullying in these days, but it does toughen you up, right? You just, it's hard. But he taught me about being tough, and when I was going wrong, he'd tell me in those uncertain terms, and I went against him a lot of times and proved him wrong. So that was good. That was a healthy competition there, or it's like this.
Yep.
It's like it's not all yes, yes, yes. And I think, to be fair, the executive team here at Sage and our board in the early days, when you're a charge from the front entrepreneur and you want to do everything new,
Yep.
there's sometimes good advice to say slow down, take your time. But then every now and then you'll get one away and say, look, I told you so. So to me, it healthy. And that's what I don't like about big company boards. Everyone seems to be so risk averse, and everyone tends to agree. I think it's healthy to have a bit of disagreement, but as long as you've got the risk covered off. Sometimes a risky move can be one of your best moves. Yep. And I'd have to say we've made a few of those. Some haven't come off, but it didn't kill the company. So we learn from that and move on.
That's good. I like the bold vision there. I'm curious now, because of all this, the senior people, and you say it's good to have healthy debates and robust debates. Where do you see that, let's say, ego sometimes takes over from the benefit of the business?
Yep. Look, great question, Bram. I'm lucky that hasn't really worried me. I mean, to the point where I've stood down as MD and CEO. So I didn't take on the executive chair role. So I'd like to think ego's in check. It's what's right for the company and not who's. We've got a little saying in our boardroom, and it's up on because Bill Anschutz was our first chairman. He very famously said, and I've got it there it's in words. Next time you come down and have a look, it's not who's right, it's what's right. And if you stick to that principle, you can't go wrong.
Love that. Yeah, it's
so
true.
If it's someone else's idea and it's better than yours, endorse it because it's what's right.
How have you been able to contain that? Because obviously, different people have sometimes different views. They have a different experience and the likes. Like, how do you contain that?
I think, look, privately owned company, you can say what you want, you can do what you want when it comes to decisions. You can push something. I don't believe we suffer to hierarchical political decision making.
Yep.
I think everyone's there to challenge everybody. It's not like, well, because I'm the boss, my idea is the best, but that doesn't happen. They tell me straight up, no, stupid idea, probably wrong. So look, we've had that very open communication in terms of what's right and what's wrong.
Good. I love that. I remember also that you guys have I've got to be mindful with the words, but let's just say a certain, not a certain type person policy.
I'm sure this podcast can handle the word dickhead, right? So you don't employ dickheads. And a good culture squeezes them out. If someone is a terrorist, I call them,
yep,
or they're trying to work against company culture, a good company culture should spit them out.
How does they specifically go about that?
Sorry, how does it go? Look,
how do you?
I'm blessed. I'm blessed to know that people will just push out someone that comes in, or it's typically when people come from outside, from other organisations or other cultures.
Yep.
This is no good, that's no good. And people will say, no, it is good. And if you don't like it, go. And I think people do. They just don't. It doesn't work for them, which is fine for us. But always promote that positive culture, down to your core values. And while your core values are, doing the best for your customer, doing the best for your fellow team members, they're pretty transparent. You can call them out pretty quickly.
Yep.
Strong brand, not being negative towards the company. I mean, these aren't rocket science things. Yep. We all talk about it: trust, integrity, doing the best you can.
Love that. As you build more of a management team around you, Andrew, where do you find that sometimes it was a bit tricky to get the managers on the same page or bring the same thing to the table?
I think Adrian, our CEO, does an incredible job. Massive amount of money is spent on communication in terms of keeping everyone in the loop. If there's a new strategy or a strategic plan or there's a potential restructure, whatever we're doing, there's a lot of investment is made in trying to educate people. So you take them on the journey. So, I think strategy is a really important one. our strategy in 2020, after I stood down, was to double the company. In 4 years. We did it. We actually achieved our strategy. The thing is, you need to let everyone know that you're going for growth, because in going for growth, it's uncomfortable. It can be a bit aggressive. People can say, what's going on? But at least they know that's what you're doing. Yep. Strategy now is, okay, let's take a breather. Let's really change the dynamic a bit and just be best in class and everything else. Still growth, but certainly not that aggressive rate of 25% year on year, which unsettles some people. I mean, growth is not easy.
Yep.
So that's it. Communicate that. Let people know what you're doing. Then, people haven't got any reason to be fearful. If they don't like it, they can actually elect to move. But a lot of people are happy that they're part of something. They're part of a group that's moving towards it. So I'd say I'd take my hat off to Adrian. Something we used to do ever since I started business was let people know what we're doing, be transparent about numbers, about what we're doing well, what we aren't doing well, what we need to improve on. So, it's all about transparency, honesty.
Okay, great. That's a word that I've definitely have seen coming up over all the years that I've been working alongside your team. That transparency and being straight shooters. I like that. I'm wondering, we both like reading, we both like learning. There's a particular thing that I've come across by the name of Peter Diamandis. He's the guy who created the X Prize and led to the discovery of the technology that Richard Branson licensed under Virgin Galactic.
Oh, yeah.
He's an interesting fellow to have a look at. But one thing that really resonated with me that I think is worthwhile discussing with you as well is the idea of gamification and basically saying, okay, there's this big problem, which is an opportunity for us in the space that our clients or, the world is grappling with. And we probably could play something in there, but let's now create an incentive price for the world to basically come to us and contribute the best ideas to help solve it within the framework that we set forward.
Yep.
To what extent does Sage use that?
Yeah, look, it's probably, I have to be honest with you, at where I sit in my career, that whole word gamification and everything else it's probably new to me. But solving problems, absolutely. Innovation, just if you look at the old, the theory of innovation, it is about looking at a problem. Now, we always say, and this is something I have taken away from business, is fall in love with the problem, not the solution. And technical companies will suddenly come up with a solution that they don't even realise there's a problem to fix, and hence they go broke or they lose a lot of money. So the whole gamification thing, Bram, I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of expertise on that. And I'm sure we do it in our teams. We have graduate teams, but I like to focus on the problem.
Yep.
Particularly if it's a problem that the customer acknowledges versus, we've got this great solution, but we're not sure about the problem. So think about that. I think that's one of the biggest errors in startups. I think it's the biggest error in business is people think they've got a solution, but they don't understand the problem.
So true. Yep. I've seen it before. Yep. Good point. Okay. Andrew, in closing, what piece of advice would you offer that you haven't discussed yet, but something else that you'd like to add for people that are there in the space of, hey, I want to have a go. I want to put a dent. I want to, create a great business. What's the one thing that we haven't touched on, which is still important to mention?
I think it's risk appetite. I might have touched on it, but, if you're going to be successful at something, you typically can't go in half. I think that's the big difference between some companies that do really, really well. You mentioned Branson. I mean, Branson went down to his last tank of gas on a flight from London to New York or something, didn't he? It was all over. And then he won the court case, for example. But he took that risk. Rupert Murdoch come down to the smallest lender in his whole banking. It was half the banks wanted to send him broke. The others supported him. It come down to his smallest lender. But he didn't give up, and he always threw it in at the kitchen sink. I think if you're serious about business, you just have to throw the kitchen sink at it. But the more risk you bring into it, then just be prepared for less growth or less spectacular results. And I think all the books you read, Bram, it would come down to those people. They're paying for their last. Well, Elon Musk.
Yep.
He ran out of cash. he had to go and borrow money from family and friends to make payroll at Tesla.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden his rocket went up after blowing up 4 times. Or what, I'm just regurgitating stuff I've read.
Yep.
But that to me is probably what people don't understand, is the risk that some of these people take.
Yeah.
And it all looks rosy after they're successful.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's
overnight successes that took like a lot of sweat, blood, and tears, right? And money.
Exactly. So I think that's what a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah. Hey, it's been a pleasure, Andrew, as always. And I really appreciate the fact that you wanted to share your journey openly and transparently with other people. So thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, look, I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you, Bram, and we'll catch up again in the future. And thank you, everyone, for listening.
That's okay. Is it okay if people reach out to you on LinkedIn? And
not a problem. I'm on LinkedIn. Yep, love to. Not a problem.
We'll make sure that everybody has a way to find you, and of course the Sage group of companies. So we'll make sure that that's all available to you. For now, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to another episode where we say energize with Bram, and of course our grateful guests. So thank you so much for joining in.
Thanks, mate.